I'm going to give you a whirlwind walk over a number of things you already know. They're not new. But what I want to call attention to is a series of things that are happening all at the same time that cause me to think something significant is happening on the time frame as it relates to Israel. It's not that any one of these things you haven't heard before, but I think their timing is fascinating. There's a compounding impact of revelations, Isaac would say, coming out of Israel. Let me just walk you through the first one. You'll nod your heads. You see a number of these stories, but I think it's profound when you think about Israel in the timetable. The first one, there was a man named Tommy. You've heard of him before. He lived in Nashville. He decided to leave FedEx, what he was with, go to Amish country, have the Amish teach him how to farm. He and his 11 children moved to in the areas that are disputed in Samaria, and he began to work there with the people, the Jewish farmers, for free. Others caught on to this vision. They started coming. Pretty soon, 300, 400, 500 people from 30, 40 different nations. Many of you know of Heifers, and you've been there in that ministry. And they work free for the Jewish farmers. Now, what's significant about this that I want you to know is that they're fulfilling prophecy. Jeremiah 31, where it says that the day will come. Go back a couple slides. You're running ahead of me. Go back a couple slides if you would. They're actually fulfilling the prophecy from the standpoint of where it says in Jeremiah 31 that the Notrim will come to the hills of Samaria, and they will assist in what is going on there. They'll be the watchmen. The word translates watchman, but that happens to be the contemporary translated word for Christian. So it means the Christians will come and help harvest the crops for free. You're watching Jeremiah 31, a 2,700-year-old prophecy coming into fruition right now. But if you go to the Isaiah passage, and we can advance to those, we have not only the issue of the crops, but we have the issue, obviously, of livestock. Now, you need to understand that for thousands of years, this land was decimated, particularly by the Arabs. I come from farm territory. I live in San Diego, California. I've been there for 30 years, but I come originally from the farms of Kansas, and I know how to treat the soil. You have to take care of the soil. Wind erosion, water erosion, and such can do a lot of damage. So you do all kinds of things. You have waterways, you have terraces, you have shoulder belts, etc., to protect the soil. But Israel, over its abuse from the Arabs and Muslims for so long, has lost 15 feet of topsoil. And so for it to grow back, you need ways of restoring the soil. Cattle or cows are the fastest way to restore. They're the fastest compost piece of equipment you can get. And cow manure, I know that's not what you came to hear about today, but it happens to reestablish the soil. So they're bringing back and reestablishing cattle on the hills is a profoundly significant part of the restoration for the pastures to come back. In addition to that, I'm going to go to another one. There was a lady named Jenna Lewinsky. She lived, go to the next slide if you would, next. That's the cowboys that have come back. Jenna Lewinsky out of Canada, noted spotted sheep across Canada. They were DNA tested, and they come from the Levant area. They come from the time of Jacob and Laban. She began buying them up because she contends the scriptures say not only are the people coming back, but so are the livestock. And she bought up the spotted sheep that come from the time of Jacob and Laban, and she began shipping them back to Israel with great difficulty. The story of getting the sheep back there is almost like the story of the Jewish people trying to get back there. And she finally got many of them back there, and you can go to the next slide, and you'll see some of the Jacob spotted sheep that are there that have come back after all these years, like the scripture says, they're returning to that land. There's another one I want to take you to. It has to do with the Dead Sea. When you go along the Dead Sea, you know the scriptures prophesy the day will come in Zechariah 14 when the Mount of Olives is going to split north and south, and there's going to be an aquifer, a pouring of water, and the Dead Sea is going to come to life again. When you move along the side of the Dead Sea, you see quite a bit of foliage. Next slide. And that foliage you see, I don't remember seeing it the first time I went there in 1981. My wife's been there 78 times to Israel. I've been there 27 times, but I started my first trip in 1981. I don't recall seeing this kind of foliage. Now you have the aquifer flowing literally from the Temple Mount, and it's flowing there, and such that there's aquifers of water. Birds are bringing in fish eggs, and you have life along the Dead Sea. My sensing is that this is a hors d'oeuvres, an appetizer to the real course. When the time comes when the mount splits north and south, the water pours in. This is a glimpse of what is to come. It's kind of a warning shot. I'm getting ready to come when Messiah comes. The next one seems like an odd one to you. Most of you probably have a shofar or blown a shofar, but I'm intrigued with the interest in the shofar. Robert Winger, how many of you know the name Robert Winger? A close friend of many of us in this room. And when we take people to Israel, everybody wants a shofar. Why is that? Nobody's buying accordions. They're not coming home with trombones. There is an obsession with shofars. Numbers of you have them. I would contend there's something spiritually going on, that our ears are wanting to be attuned to the sound of the trump when the Messiah comes. And that is why there is almost an obsession with the whole aspect of shofars. You can't go into any group of our kind of people without somebody spontaneously sounding the shofar. Now, if I brought my bass guitar in and started doing that, you'd think something is wrong. Nobody questions it, shofar, because we understand there's something in our heart that longs for the sound of the coming of the Messiah. More discoveries. I want to take you, if I can, to the next one of what's called the Gilgal. Gilgal we thought was just a city. For a long time we thought that. But Gilgal refers to something more than that. Gilgal is a formation of stones about the size of a football field in an oval shape, the shape of a foot. Zertal, the famous archaeologist, discovered one. Then he discovered two. Then he discovered three. He was traipsing across Samaria, and he kept discovering them. Pretty soon there were 7 of them he discovered. What were these? As the Ark of the Covenant entered, it appears that the Ark of the Covenant had a number of stops sojourning until it finally got to Shiloh, where the capital was for 369 years. These are always in amphitheater settings. In other words, there's room for 1 million people to be around them, observing what's happening in the main area, a place to process around it, a place in the center where the Ark of the Covenant likely was kept. That's the best we know from what that was. Now, that's been hidden from us for thousands of years, and it's just now recently being discovered. Is there some significance of that? And then one of the most thrilling of all to me is the next one, and that's Joshua's altar. On Mount Ebal, 3,400 years old. It wasn't discovered till the 1980s, early 1990. Adam Zertal, the famous archaeologist. When he first discovered it, he couldn't figure out what it was. They did enormous research on it, and then he realized this was actually Joshua's altar when they crossed over. Now, when they crossed over, remember this. The warriors crossed over near Jericho, and there was the Valley of the Circumcision that took place there. That's the same place Elijah's caves, where Elijah trained the prophets, where the Elijah mantle fell to Elisha. Beit Hoglah is the name of the community there, remarkable community. And then they traversed to Jericho, took it out, and then went to Ai. That's where the warriors crossed. The rest of them went up. The elderly, the women, and the children went up further to Adam, the town of Adam. The water stopped. They crossed over. You can see from archaeological discoveries that there are several million people that fanned out across that area based upon the pottery discovered from that time frame. And when they got there, they established between Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim. Gerizim, the Mount of Blessing. Mount Ebal, the Mount of Curses. Moses talked about it twice. Joshua talked about it and fulfilled it once. The people walked between the parts. That's based on Genesis 15, the walking between the parts of the heifer that was cut in two, the covenant-making ceremony between Abram and God. They walked between the parts of these mountains, and from one side, the priest would chant, if you obey God, if you bless him and keep his commandment, blessed shall you be, and they would list a whole lot of things. From the other side was the warning, the Mount of Ebal, cursed shall you be if you violate the ways of God. Deuteronomy 28 is actually a part of the covenant-making ceremony. On Mount Ebal, the Mount of Curses, they discovered this altar, Joshua's altar. Why on the Mount of Curses? Not known for certain. My belief would be it was there because that was God redemptively coming against from the curse to release a blessing upon the place. What is amazing to me is this was not discovered till just very recently. I mean, by recently, I'm talking about 1990s or so. Adam Zertal was not a believer in the Jewish Bible, the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament. But this swung him around. And if you know the name Aaron Lipkin, son of Avi Lipkin, he has become a great defender of this site. Pray with me, because the Palestinian Muslims are trying to wipe this out. Vandalism, try to destroy it, trying to take the stones, and there needs to be tremendous support. This is, in my personal view, the most important place when I go to Israel. This is what I love the most, is this site right here. This is extremely, extremely important site. Let's go to the next topic. Now, Israel's revealing her secrets. Look what's happening in a short span of time. You know the story of the red heifers. You know Isaac Mamo, and you know Byron Stenson. How many know those names? They're the ones who did the search in Texas for the red heifers. They found 5 that they shipped back that were in perfection. The reason they were perfect, it was during COVID they were born. During COVID, the veterinarians couldn't get there to clip their ears, so they had no blemish on them at that time. And Israel said, we will not accept livestock from the U.S. To which Saki Mamo said, these are not livestock, these are my pets. They said, oh, we'll take your pets then. So they shipped 5 pets back. These heifers, they're in Shiloh, and they're getting ready for Numbers chapter 19. Numbers chapter 19 is the red heifer ceremony. Now, as Christians, we have a hard time understanding this ceremony, but let me just cut it short by my time. This is important. It's important to the Jewish people. It's important to us. We have different understandings of exactly what it means, but it's still a very, very important ceremony. And it's very significant because this happens to have a sequence for the coming of the Messiah. So these 5 have come back. 2 disqualified themselves. There are 3 that by either a red hair, a non-red hair, a white hair, gray hair. But 2 have continued, 3 have qualified, and they just did a test run with one of them. By that I mean it is deceased now and went through the process and getting the ashes of the red heifer. It was an actual practice run, just happened about 10 days ago or so, and testing out what will it take for us to be able to actually do this, because it has not been done all these years. In Jewish tradition, the red heifer ceremony has happened 9 times. It is believed in Jewish tradition that the 10th time will either be done for the Messiah or by the Messiah. If you'll go to the slide with the picture of the bridge on it, the bridge you're about to see, as they skip ahead to the bridge, is a wooden bridge. It's intentionally made out of wood, and it ties it directly. Let's go to the one with the bridge if you can find it. And it ties them directly from the Temple Mount all the way across. I don't know if we've gone by the bridge or not. Can you get back to that one? And from the Temple Mount, it comes across to the Mount of Olives, where the ceremony will take place. Now, to have that ceremony, you need land, and the land needs to be east of the temple. Where does that come from? East of the tabernacle, 1,000 furlongs, is where the sacrifice would take place, or a ceremony would take place, about 1,500 feet. 1,500 feet, you can't buy land on that mount. Why? It's owned by Muslims. If a Muslim sells to a Jew, the Muslim will be killed. Unless you're creative and you run the land through a whole lot of companies till it can finally get to a Jewish person, which has happened. So now we have not only the red heifer for the ceremony, we actually have the land to Duma, which is about 1/2 acre, very costly land, the land where it will actually happen and take place. That's the bridge that's used originally. According to the rabbis, as I understand it, they do not have to use that particular type of bridge at this particular time. Let's go on to the next topic if we can, and that is the land. We've talked about the land, the Mount of Olives. Now we're going to go to the issue of the third temple. My friend Saki Mamo, who many of you know, got a call from Papua New Guinea, said, please come. He said, I don't even know where Papua New Guinea is. He looked up and said, it's going to take me 25 hours to fly there. Why would I go? They said, come. He got there. He said, why am I here? And they said, well, the Prime Minister said, well, it's my birthday, but I'm not asking for you to give me a gift. I want to give you a gift. I want you to meet the Director of Interior Security. It's like the top cop, and go in with him to the inward area We have 851 tribes in Papua New Guinea with 851 different languages, and they all trust him. Go with him. Why? Just go, you'll understand. He went with them way into the interior of Papua New Guinea. Now let's go to the scripture. If you can find it, you shoot through all those pictures and go to the one that has the scripture on it and has 1 Kings. See if you can find that one. That's Saki Mamo, who has spoken at Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast before, if you heard him. And we get to 1 Kings chapter 10. We find out the purpose of the trip and why is he there. The reason he's there, he said, they tell him this. Are we at 1 Kings? Can we get to 1 Kings 10? Is it possible to get there? Somehow before the end of time, if possible? There we go. All right. 1 Kings chapter 10. Queen of Sheba brought a lot of things to Solomon. She brought gold, 120 talents of gold. Next slide. 1 Kings 10. But then here comes the ships of Hiram. This is from Lebanon, from Tyre. They brought gold from Ophir. They brought 666 talents of gold. Every 3 years, they were able to make a cycle bringing that gold. The people in the country of Papua New Guinea said, we are the ones who supplied the gold for the first temple. We have the biggest gold depository of any country. We're prepared to give the gold free for the third temple. They said, now, why do you think they call this area Solomon's Island? If you will look in the deep pits, you're going to find evidence, archaeological evidence, that Israeli people were here 3,000 years ago. It came from this country. We're going to start mining again. 1/3 goes to us, 1/3 to the mining company, and 1/3 to Israel, the gold for their temple for free. He said, by the way, that came from Ophir. We are the tribe of Ophia. That is us. We're prepared to do it again. In addition to that, another year, I knew about this for some time before Saki Mama would allow me to talk openly about it. Rosemary and I were aware. He was filling us in on details. And finally, he gave us the permission to announce it in Washington, D.C. at the National Gathering for Prayer and Repentance. Mr. Member of the Knesset, have been a part of that for several years. So it was a joy to get to announce something so profound and exciting. You see what's happening? You see the pattern? Israel revealing her secrets. Something is happening. And then they needed, if you know about the Temple Institute, how many have been to the Temple Institute in Jerusalem? Many of you. You know they've analyzed everything down to even the fabric, the thread, and the vestments of the priest. Every ingredient is analyzed microscopically, prepared to rebuild the temple. But they lacked a particular kind of a flower that produced a particular kind of incense. And once again, just recently, they found that in Papua New Guinea, and now they have that completed just quite recently. So now that takes us from the issue of the third temple. Go to the next slide, if you would. We needed to have a red heifer. Back up just for one moment. Sorry to make you back up, but we needed the red heifer, we needed the land, and we now have the gold. Now I'm going to come back to the third temple in a moment. Let's go to the next slide, if we can. The next slide is a series of artifacts from the birthplace of the Messiah. Now, we all recognize that those of us who are Christians look to Bethlehem. I'm going to go real fast through this because there's so much to say, and my time is just about up. But in Genesis 35:21, the Migdal Eder is referred to. Migdal Eder is the Tower of Eder, Tower of the sheep, Tower of the flock is what that means. The next slide, in Micah 4:8, we see about the Tower of the flock, the Migdal Eder, as being the birthplace of the one we anticipated. And now in Micah chapter 5, verse 2, if we can go to the next one, we'll have to skip by a couple slides to get there. Go to the next one if you would. Micah 5:2, O you Bethlehem Ephratah. So we have valued Bethlehem, but Bethlehem Ephratah is the actual birthplace. Ephratah, what is that? Go to the next slide, if you would, please. It's out in the area where the Ruth and Boaz story take place. Next slide. This is a map of the Holy Land from 540 AD. Next slide. We're going to zero in on it just a little bit more in the next slide if we can. Can we go next one? Now you see the football shape. This is found in Jordan from 540 AD and discovered about 1880 in a mosaic on the floor. The football shape is Jerusalem. And look to the right, Ephratah, a woman giving birth, and then right to that, Bethlehem. So that place of the location of the woman giving birth is number 3 on the map. Ephratah, not Bethlehem. Go to the next slide. The place, next slide, please. Are we frozen? This is that location. This is that location. It's here they found an enormous number of artifacts. Artifacts indicating that this is the actual birthplace of Jesus. Those artifacts, through a story that I'm not allowed to speak of publicly in any environment, have miraculously made their way country by country by country over the last 80 or so years, and they are now in the United States, in the Midwest. And there's a museum of them available for people to see. If you'll see me afterwards, my sister, stand up, Judy. My sister helps guide people there in that location and she can tell you a lot more on it. They're happy for me to talk about it as long as I don't talk about that portion on a microphone. But over 1,000 artifacts that were discovered and now are at that particular location are absolutely astounding. So much more that could be said, but what I want you to see and try to understand is what is going on, that all of these things are being revealed at this particular time. And then let's go to the next one, if I could. The next slide, and we'll skip a bunch of slides and go all the way till a picture comes up of a lady, if you would, Nancy Del Grande. I've got to cap off and slow off with this one. This is a 92-year-old close friend of my wife, Rosemary. Rosemary, stand so they know who you are. This is Nancy Del Grande. Nancy, at age 8, became a child prodigy studying physics. Her father was a professor at Columbia University, involved with the Manhattan Project. They began to launch it in the basement under his office. And she had a clear predilection towards physics at a very young age. Brilliantly developed a technique by which her company could understand where the tunnels were under the ground by flying planes over and taking many pictures per second at different seasons of the year. Is not seismic refraction, it's another name for it than that. Go to the next slide. But the result was that she discovered, with the help of the government of Israel, where a tunnel is on the Temple Mount. Why is that important? That, by the way, is in Times Square in New York City. Now look at this very carefully. There you see the Dome of the Rock, and you see Al-Aqsa Mosque to the left. We've always assumed that for the third temple to be built, somehow those buildings have got to be gone. But the Jews, as we all know, they don't tear up other people's places of worship. Everybody else tears up theirs, and the Muslims tear up everyone's, but they don't touch other people's houses of worship. So consequently, how is the temple going to be rebuilt if those are in the way? But look at the circles on there. From her studies with a group of men in Israel, flying these planes and later drones over this area, and they discovered, now go to the next slide, I think it shows it a little bit better, I believe. This will be our last one. It shows the line going across there as being a drainage channel from the Temple Mount area, the altar, directly to the Kidron Valley. Why is that important? It shows that the temple was located not where many of us thought, at least many Christians thought, but is in fact located at what's called Dome of the Spirits, north of the current Dome of the Rock, and that puts it in alignment with a number of things, including the altar at what's called the nostrils, the water and the blood, draining from the temple, the second temple, or first temple, all the way to the Kidron Valley. If this is the case, my friend Saki Mamo, an Orthodox Jew, indicates this could mean that potentially the third temple could be built, walled off, and still go up without the touching of these other buildings. I'm not predicting that. I don't have inside knowledge of that at all. I'm simply raising as a question, what does this mean? Because what we need first in this sequence, we've already talked about, we need, first of all, the land for the red heifer. Then we need the land for the red heifer ceremony itself. And then my Jewish friends tell me, then we need the temple to be rebuilt. And then Messiah comes. This accumulation of things happening at such a fast pace in a short span of time is an indicator to me, without making any predictions, simply saying we need to be alert, we need to be ready, and what a joy it is in this season to get to stand with our Jewish friends and with the state of Israel. Thank you so much.